Well, hey, friends, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to my friend Sarah Robbins today. So, listen, Sarah is one of the world's leading network marketers. I'm not talking like she does okay, like she's like a number one earner in her network marketing company, and she's a top team builder in her company. She's broke records in her industry, hitting over like $1 billion per year in sales in like a record amount of time. She has, a book called Rock Your Network Marketing Business. She has a membership group for network marketers, a mastermind for top leaders in the profession. She is amazing. But even if you're not in network marketing or have no interest in that, I want you to listen to this podcast because Sarah is a wealth of information when it comes to how to build a personal brand, how to be a generous giver, how to give before you even have the capacity to give, how to give of your time, talent, and your treasure. She has so many nuggets coming up in this podcast that I want to make sure that you've got something to write with, because I myself took notes. She's going to give you a couple of we were talking about some makeup right at the beginning. So stay tuned for that. You can watch her on YouTube. You can watch her and I have a conversation there if you want to, or she actually shows the makeup she's talking about. But this is an incredible conversation with someone who is near and dear to my heart. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my friend, Sarah Robbins. Hello, my friend.
Hi.
I am so excited to have you here. So Sarah and I were just having the podcast before the podcast. So I have like all my notes of what we were going to talk about, but I'm actually going to back this bus up because I've given you Sarah's intro. You know that she's in like the skincare arena. And so how did we just oh, I know how we just got started. We were both complaining about our skin, about just like as we age, your skin, it changes. And I was telling, it's so bizarre. I was telling Sarah, who I'm a lot older than, that when we were in Scottsdale last week for my mastermind, there were several of us women in the mastermind who are over 50 who were saying that our skin at over 50 is worse than it ever was when we were 16 or 18, in terms of like acne and breakouts. And we were like, what the heck, man? And so then Sarah said, go ahead.
I mean, this just isn't fair. So, two of the doctors that I work with are anti-aging doctors and world-renowned dermatologists.
Yes.
They did a little talk about how men, when they age, they actually like their masculine features really, are more defined. And we start saying to men, right, when they get older, we're like, wow, you look really handsome. And they put,
Yes.
flash on the screen the pictures of George Clooney.
Yes,
And
yes.
they flash on the screen the pictures of women as we age, and our features look more masculine. And it's like, well, what the heck? That's not fair. We can't afford to do that along with all the other things.
I agree 1 bajillion%. Jason and I were just having this conversation the other day. I was telling him, like, not all men, but a lot of men get way hotter the older they get. I'm like, my husband is fine. I mean, I thought he was handsome then. Oh my gosh. I mean, and then maybe this is the reason our marriage is better today than it was, 26 years ago. But I'm like, you just keep getting better and better. And I, on the other hand, like sagging softer and falling apart. So I'm glad to know that there's science behind this and not just like me,
There is
imagining.
science, but the good news is like, okay, how many years have you guys been married?
We've been married 26 years.
26 years. We've been married 20 this year. So it's like, at
How
this
is
point,
that possible?
this is
Were
like
you 10?
relationship
Were you
insurance.
10 when you got married?
Yeah, totally. No.
You are amazing. Okay, let me just also mention real quick, and we're going to get started here, but I could talk like this with Sarah all day long, that she has the most phenomenal lipstick on. And so if you are not watching on YouTube, you need to go look at the YouTube video, and I'm making her send me a picture of her current lips. I know, and
I
it
feel
looks
like we
amazing.
need to affiliate this and drop it in the show notes because this stuff is like bomb.com. It is so good.
How do you become an affiliate for it's Dior, right?
For the you ladies who are listening to this show, you do not walk, you run to go get the new Dior lip plumper. I think it's called the lip plumper. This one is 005. But let me just say this.
It's amazing.
You need to watch on YouTube. Not only the color, but the plump, like the texture, like all the things. Everywhere I go, everybody's going, I love that
Yes.
color.
The color
And
is fabulous.
hey, this was my party favor for my birthday party, which you should have been at. I just need
Which
to get you to move to Southern California. That's all.
I'm still irritated that I wasn't there. I was actually the other day, I was at a news station in Kansas City and doing a news segment. And there was like the guy that brings in like the production notes and things, he had on a t-shirt. So basically he was not invited to the wedding of one of the hosts of the show. So his t-shirt says, I was not invited to Sally or whatever her name was wedding. And I was like, that is classic. Okay. I
That's
was uninvited to
amazing.
Sarah's party, but I just need to know I love her and I forgive her. We just need to live closer. That is the bottom line. So
This is true. And I just have to say about you, Jen, because I just adore you. Jen is one of my great friends and also one of my mentors. So everything that I learned about memberships, masterminds, it was a cool thing because I've
was it?
been in your membership for, I mean, I don't even know how many years.
Yeah.
Then we ended up in a couple masterminds
Mastermind. Yep.
together. And I'm like, I have been your fly on the wall for so
Yes.
many years for all things marketing. So such a blessing that God really just brought us
Yeah.
together and we could be friends. So I'm so
Well,
thankful for your friendship.
yeah, and ditto, because it's one of the things that I love about the internet. The internet gets such a bad rap. Social media gets such a bad rap.
Yeah.
But unbeknownst to me, you were in my inner circle for a couple of years, and then you and I were in the Queen's Table Mastermind with Lisa Bevere and Brooke Thomas. And I remember walking into that room, and I followed you on social media. And your main focus is network marketing because that's what you're queen of. And I'm not in network marketing, but at some point I stumbled across one of your Facebook Lives or something. You obviously have great favor on your face. And so, you're phenomenal on video. And so I started following you. Well, when I sat in the room with you at Queen's Table, I was like super intimidated because I'm like, that's Sarah Robbins. And I mean,
Like,
and that is so hilarious because I'm like, girl, you are a ruler of so many things. And so I think isn't it interesting how sometimes we make preconceived notions about people based on what we see on social media? And it's not that I assumed that you would be any certain way, but I never in a million years would have dreamed that Sarah Robbins, who is at the top of her game, you guys, the top of a company, like, you blessed and highly favored in so many different ways. I never dreamt that number one, we would be really good friends. Two, that you would be so down to earth and so humble and such a learner of all the things. And so it was such an honor and also really intimidating to find out you'd been in my group. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so, so now I love that we've met in real life many, many times and our husbands love each other and we need to plan a vacation. So
yeah, this is it. So this is what we're planning.
this is what we are planning. Okay. So I want you to kind of tell people your story a little bit because I think your story, Sarah, is um it's not that it's rags to riches, but it does give women a lot of hope who are maybe in a situation right now that they're like, gosh, I wish it was different. And, I'm content, but I know there's other things. And so tell people your story because it is just incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always say, and I'll tell the story of how we built our business. So first our network marketing business, and then how we expanded really
Yes.
through our personal brand. Because I think two things: yes, it gives people hope, but also too, it allows people to understand what they're holding, right? Like the value of what they're holding, the knowledge, the specialized area of skill sets or superpower that um, maybe they could multiply. So I was actually a teacher back in the recession of '08. I loved teaching kindergarten, first grade, never imagined doing anything different, except for we all know what happened to Motown or Motor City, right? I was living in Metro Detroit. And although I was the most requested teacher in the building, teacher tenure trumped performance. So I started praying for opportunity.
Mm.
And I think that's just something to key into here is sometimes it's like we get into these prayers of like basic needs, right? When and,
Yes.
and it's kind of
Keep
like
everybody safe. Keep everybody
that's
healthy.
it. It's like, my daily prayer with my kids, it's the Psalm 91, right? But it's like, Lord, send me opportunity, right? Place me on the hearts of other people. And I just really started to pray that prayer. God, send me opportunity. And it's interesting. Sometimes we don't always recognize it when it shows up. But here's the thing: pressure promotes you. Pressure
Yes.
promotes. Sometimes it's like,
That's
we can camp in the place of complacency, and that can actually lead to our decline. But
yeah.
it's like sometimes the very thing that we look and we're like, oh man, I'm going to lose my job. That's the thing that the Lord would use to actually launch you if you
Yes.
let it.
Yeah.
So I'm there and freelancing for these different companies, basically just doing odd jobs, helping out at events for about like $20 an hour. It was a great way to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And I would show up with excellence, in everything that I did.
Of
And
course.
there's a lesson to be learned here, because actually one of the companies that I was freelancing for, it wasn't the one that paid the most. But again, no matter what I did, I would always show up with excellence.
Yes.
And that paid off. One day, that company was looking for ways that they could reach more people. They decided they were going to leave retail, go into direct sales, and they said, "Do you want to do this?" Okay. So imagine if
Right.
I hadn't shown up with excellence and finished that season with excellence. We never know who's watching, and we never know what open doors things can lead to. So I didn't know what I was saying yes or no to be honest. My mom was a serial entrepreneur. She did everything to stay at home with her 3 girls. So like at home care, direct selling, real estate, etc. And she was like, "Sarah, we would be crazy not to do this." So started that part-time, that direct sales business, built that business to $1 billion per year brand, just our sales team. And really just kind of did
said a billion with a B, friends.
a billion. Yes. So our team serves millions of customers every year, does billions of dollars in sales. And Jen, I was in my young 20s. So I'm going to share the story of, kind of how that led to building our brand. People started to say, "Do you do coaching?" At the time, I didn't even really know what that was. And I was like, "Who's got time for that?" No.
I know when I had my first, I had a voicemail, Sarah, that somebody left on the old fashioned um, answering machines. You know how where you'd push play when you got home? And she was like, "Hi, I know you don't know me, but I'm a painter. I live in Florida. I just wondered if like I could pay you to coach me." And I'm like, I don't even know what she's saying. Pay you to coach me. What do you mean? I'm thinking a coach is somebody on the football field. What do you mean coach you? So I get it. I didn't know what that was even a career.
Oh, and when I was thinking of coaching, I was like, one-on-one. I don't really think I have time. And so it was interesting. I accidentally stumbled into building a personal brand, which now I actually learned there's some strategy behind. But I would show up live. And this was simply because people were asking me, "Well, gosh, you guys are growing so fast. You're breaking records. Like, what are you doing?" So I decided I would go live, and I still do today, once a week, offering training in under 10 minutes. For me, I do prospecting pop-ups. That's what I teach network marketers. And so it was so crazy because people were like, "Wow, this is such great value. It's totally free." Sometimes we're scared to, give something away, right? Kind of, to just to build an audience. And that's actually what causes people to pause and go, "I want to actually pay her for more," right? But at the time, I didn't monetize. So here I am doing these live videos. And we built our social media following collectively to over 500,000 people, over 300,000 of those being on that Facebook page without any ads. I mean, that's just like every marketer's dream today, to not have to add money to build that type of following. So there came a day where I was like, I think probably from like watching you getting in your programs, I'm like, "Oh, you can do a group program."
Yes.
I remember launching my program, the Network Marketing Inner Circle, and I said to Phil, I go, "If I only have 5 people sign up, I'm just going to say, just kidding."
Okay.
And 5 people signed up. And I was like, "Okay, this works." And so I love that, because it's like you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the classroom out of the teacher, right?
There you go. Yeah.
For me, it's like my joy unlocked. And then I started doing masterminds for leaders in our industry. And, really want all of your listeners to really think about what is, like Jen for you, is the woman who said, "Hey, could you take me on and, teach me how to do what you're doing?" Right?
Yeah. And so I always think like God leaves like little, I don't want to say crumbs because that sounds like lowly, but he leaves hints through people of what our next thing is. And I think like, because at first when I got that message, I'm like, "Oh, I'm not coaching you. I don't even know what that looks like. I don't even know what that means. I've never done that before. I'm not a coach. I'm a painter." But then like the second person asked, in my DMs or something, a third person was like, "How do you have hundreds of thousands of followers?" And so what I found myself doing, Sarah, is because I've always tried to be a people person, and I've always tried to really keep my information like loose. And so there's a lot that God asked me to share, on my podcast, like, tactics and strategy. There's a lot that, I charge for in my mastermind things too, but I always want to be a sharer of all the things. And so when people would say, "Well, what are you doing to grow your social media?" I would sit down and I would go, "Okay, well, here's what I'm doing. Like right now on Facebook, and I'm spending all this time Or they would send me a message and say, you know, I know you just showed a picture of how you just painted somebody's kitchen cabinets. Can you tell me how to do that? And so I would sit down and I'd write out all the instructions. And then I started feeling a little bit bitter about it because I'm like, I just answered for the fifth time today how to do that exact painting, you know, and I'm like, why am I not just like chart? It was like an aha moment. Oh, is that what coaching is? Where I just start telling them exactly what I've been doing for free, but start charging them. And it was really an aha for me.
Yeah. I mean, that is so true. And it's like, so we built the audience by giving great value. And I think sometimes, people have it so backwards.
Mhm.
And then it's like, oh, you can actually turn on a switch and monetize it. And today it can be like going live on Facebook or Instagram, doing a podcast, whatever the case may be, where it's
Yeah.
like we can give some value, but then they can learn some structure to actually implement,
Mhm.
launch some form of a product and profit from it as
Yeah.
well.
Are you still going live? Is the platform you're still going live on? Is it Facebook or are you inside one of your groups?
Yeah, so actually now, well, we love all of the changes that are happening on Facebook and groups and all the things, but I actually decided, you know what? I have so many different places that people follow me. So now I do StreamYard,
Mhm.
and the majority of people, they do watch from Facebook,
Yep.
but I, of course, have people like, I'll house those on YouTube too. YouTube is amazing just for evergreen leads.
Yes.
There's one video that I did about my business probably about 15 years ago. And that's how a lot of people find me. If I meet people random places,
Really?
what I hear most often is, I found you on YouTube, or I'm binge watching your videos on YouTube.
It's fascinating.
So yeah, so it's very, very interesting to hear like how people are, finding you today.
Yeah, it sure is. We were just having a conversation a few minutes ago in one of the groups I was just teaching in about YouTube because I really believe that YouTube anymore is a search engine and it's not, a social media platform. And there are definitely different industries that lend themselves, I think, to better growth on YouTube than others. And so for every like person that's listening that's an artist, or I have like a cartoon, animation person in my group right now, I'm like, you need to be all over YouTube where people can watch that. And so I know you have some like thoughts about, what to put on social media in terms of like how much should be free, how much shouldn't, really giving value there. So what's kind of your rule of thumb?
Listen, this is like my jam, and this is the thing that I love to coach on the most, because I just watch people on social media and I'm like, man, I wish I could just help. Because, and here's the thing, like in my industry, I see so many people who are just eager to share their product. So their intentions are really good. Their intentions are to help people. But the problem is this: their product is only one solution to people's problems. So they're talking about their product every single day. And
Post, yep.
are those posts suppressed, right, by the
Mhm.
algorithm? Because now the algorithm is combing for not only links, so we
Yes.
shouldn't have links in our posts, but also to sales language.
Yeah.
And the way you can test this theory: post a picture about your or post something about your business, post something about your babies, your fur babies, your grandbabies. It's like everyone's like, woo, all the engagement,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And then crickets on the stuff about your business.
Yep.
I always say to our
Which
students,
is so painful.
it's so painful. So we have to be innovative. We really have to think, pause before we post.
Yes.
Conversation is the currency of social media. At the end of the day,
Yeah. That's
how we
so
have
good.
people in the comment section. So it's like, can we, first and foremost, first, for us to have success, quote unquote, selling on social media, we need to be focused on storytelling. Instead of 9 out of 10 posts being about our business, we actually want to flip that and focus first on building an audience. So we want posts that perform well with our audience
Mhm.
and in the algorithm.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at growing our audience, right, we want to cast a wider net.
Mhm.
We need to, every single day before we post, ask ourselves this question: whoever the avatar is, how do I make his or her life easier or better?
Yeah.
If we are not doing that, we need to go back to the drawing board. So let's say you sell weight loss.
Mhm.
If you're talking about that product every single day, again, we have to pause, because that is one solution to their problem. So what are other things they need to know? How to get the water intake,
Yes,
right?
you and I both have our cups here. Uh-huh.
How to get in, so cute and things. How to get in the steps. How to find high protein snacks, right?
Yes.
Everything about the high protein. Maybe funny memes about weight loss. Maybe
Yes.
inviting people into a
Mhm.
conversation, which actually gets them into the comment section. So again, it's like, what are other things that can build that audience. So when I sprinkle in the product, I have more potential buyers, right? More followers, more engaged followers, potential customers. And then the other piece is, right, the algorithm. So how do we create posts that perform well in the algorithm? Again, we're going to stay away from links and sales language, but we invite people into conversation by asking them a question, posting something that causes healthy controversy. Again, the goal is not to get unfollowed, banned, or blocked. Right. But also, the day that I posted, it was so interesting about everybody's favorite under eye mascara. So we didn't have the circles under our eyes.
Did you just cause a crap storm?
Oh, thousands. And I mean, it was like people had some major opinions.
Isn't that wild?
I quickly found out what everybody's favorite was, and now it's my favorite too. That Thrive, that it's kind of like little fibers. We can talk all things beauty today, but I had thousands of women recommend it, and I was like, well,
really?
No.
I'm writing it down because don't think I'm not taking notes for this podcast. I am. I just wrote down that you said the currency of social media is conversation. I like writing down.
And also buy the mascara. No, just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Buy the mascara. I've got the plumper by the written down too. But this is so good because what I see people doing, Sarah, and I don't have a good word for it, but I call them bump posts. Is like they'll put the thing that they have up for sale. They don't have a call to action. It's like a good morning. It's Tuesday. I hope you have a great day today. So it's just like a bump post. It's like there's nothing following it. Just like that's where it dies. And in order for the algorithm to be putting your content in front of other people, you have to keep the conversation going. There has to be people commenting and sharing and saving posts. And so it does feel sometimes anymore like social media. It's like I was saying on my call on the program I was just in right before you, it's like social media gymnastics is what I feel like we're having to do. How do I like make this get seen on Facebook? Okay, now I'm over here on Instagram. How do I make sure on, that I'm feeding the Instagram beast here? Okay, now I'm going to TikTok. What does TikTok want me to do? Stand on my head? Okay, I'll stand on my head. It is wild to me, but which social media platforms are you really focused on right now? As a person who's selling products, I mean, because you are selling products in network marketing space, but you've also got your inner circle, which is your monthly membership. You've also got your mastermind. So where are you focusing at for your social?
So a few things. So LinkedIn is actually a really great place if people want to kind of like prospect or mine like for professionals. It's interesting. Now, I will say most of my leads come to me and they come to me from Facebook and Instagram. Okay. But for people who kind of feel like my leads list has run dry, if you have an opportunity-based business, it's a great place to go and to grow. And here's why. Facebook and Instagram, if you DM a stranger, they're going to say stop. And that is just it because it's a social platform. Right. Nobody wants to be solicited there. Yep. LinkedIn is so different and it is so under leveraged because people are there to hear opportunity. So if anything, they either respond or don't, but nobody's yelling back, clapping back, saying, get out of here, you're spamming me. So
good.
That's actually interesting. We've actually had a lot of people in our program who've been in their business over 10 years, 20 years, and they're going, oh my gosh, I'm actually, finding new people to talk to about my business. A lot of people on our team, actually, some of our top leaders joined because of LinkedIn. But of course, I still love Facebook and Instagram too, because it is social. And so, I'm never going to be one of those people that says niche down so much that you become boring. Like, I don't want to be a world-class anti-aging commercial. I leave that for my brand, right? And really, I do teach our people, I'm like, in our industry, we promote two things. We promote a product, but also an opportunity. Yes. So we're showing lifestyle. I'll give you an example. So
and girl, your lifestyle is chef's kiss. I mean, you guys need to go follow Sarah when we're done here. And then you're literally going to want to just go shopping and traveling. But the reason I love watching your lifestyle is because I know too, how grateful you are for it, how hard you worked for it, how giving you are of it. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm looking at your lifestyle going, oh, I want to fly private. I mean, I do, but it's, it's not like I'm looking at it like that. Like I love whenever you go to some spa all the time, Sarah. And I think every time you have a new purse and you do a picture every time with a new Chanel purse. And I'm like, every time I'm like, I don't even like Chanel purses, except now I like them because look at how good they look with Sarah every time. And I'm like, dang it, lifestyle, man.
I'm gonna treat you to a spa day. But I want your listeners to hear actually how no matter where they are in terms of their life, their lifestyle, because we are all start somewhere, how do we make it work for us? So I coach direct sellers. Okay. So it's interesting because I watch our students and they'll be like, well, I didn't earn that trip, so I'm not going to talk about it. A lot of my travel is earned travel through my
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
So I say to them, anytime that there's a perk that's available to you, you don't get to decide for other people. You need to share with other people. It's your job to share it, their job to decide, right? So
Yeah.
share that thing. So I
Yeah.
gave an example about a trip to Italy that our company was offering, okay? And I painted the picture and I actually dissected other people's posts and I was like, here's why I wouldn't post this. A lot of people were posting stock photos that they found on the internet into our human brain that registers as an ad. That's never going to stop the scroll. I was like,
That's
take
good.
a moment, find a fun picture that's somewhere it looks like you're celebrating, you're excited, or maybe you're traveling, right?
Yeah.
You can add that to the carousel. And in the post, I really outlined some cool things about, what the experience was going to include, but I did two things.
I read that post. I remember that post.
I sponsored for my business 4 people in one post. Now, it's interesting. I used to say, message me if you want to learn more. People don't message us if they want to learn more.
They don't.
They're going, what do I say to her? So if I've got 500,000 people and nobody's messaging me, guaranteed they're probably not messaging the majority of people that are listening.
Right.
So I instead said, one word call to action. If you're interested in learning about earning free travel, drop the word opportunity. You can go back and post opportunity, 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 opportunity. Guess what that did? It increased my engagement, which meant it showed the post to more people. The third thing I did, so I did the picture, drop the word opportunity if you want to earn free travel. The third thing was, because not everybody was interested in dropping the word opportunity, I said, if you've been to Italy, give me your favorite tips. So I also asked the question of the rest of the audience. You know what's so cool? That was like, tell me about your favorite bottom mascara. Yes. Everybody has tips, opinions about Italy, whether or not they've been there.
Right.
They were in the comment section. So that post did so well. So it showed the algorithm chose to show it to more people in my audience, which meant I was able to add more people in my business. So see, sometimes it's not just what we're posting. We just need to take an extra moment to think about, how do I invite people into that conversation?
Okay. This is really good. So complete moment of transparency. I'll be honest with you if you're honest with me. Okay.
Okay, sure. Total. Yes.
So when I see those posts, comment the word shop below to see everything I bought in this room. I'm like, shop. I usually don't mind that anybody that follows me who maybe follows them would see that I commented shop. But there have been a couple times when somebody has a freebie or something. I know I'm being honest with you. And they're like, comment below if you want.
I know I did this too, but go ahead.
I comment below if you want my freebie on exactly what my financials look like last month or something. And so I comment below and then I get it. And then I immediately take my comment off. Okay. Is anybody talking about this? I need to do like a reel or something. This is a thing, isn't it?
I was talking to our good friend, Emily Ford, and she was like, you need to do a podcast for network marketers. It's like the real.
The real. Yeah.
Like, let's tell the truth. So like the truth is good enough, right? That's totally true.
And so, but what was brilliant about what you did on that post is if they wanted to hear more about the opportunity, they typed opportunity, but then you also had them like leave their best Italy tip below. So it's like the word opportunity was scattered in between feedback, which doesn't feel quite as vulnerable, if that makes sense. So that was brilliant.
And the other thing is too, is you cannot track leads on social media if you're linking to things anyway. So it's like, you don't know who clicked what. Yeah. So sales happen in the inbox. Now I know who's interested. I can go back and actually follow up and say, what questions do you have? What would you like to learn more about? Yeah. So it's actually so smart anyways, because, it's a process.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So we've talked about, your personal brand. Talk just a little bit about, because there have been times when I have done some conversations, Sarah, where I talk specifically to network marketers. Because while I haven't ever been in network marketing, I don't think, I do posts for Crunchy's makeup, but that's very minimal. I guess it's network marketing, but I used to be one of the influencers for a brand of paint. And then, so for a while, my goal was how could I, with just this little bit of extra money, like pay the light bill? And then it was, how could I pay the light bill and the gas bill? And then it was, well, how can I pay the mortgage? And then they decided to just sell on Amazon. So I was like, what? After I've been, depending on this for, the money stuff. So I have never been anti-network marketing or MLM, but I have always been pro, like, make sure you don't have all your eggs into one basket. And I love that you have always been a believer in that. And you've created a personal brand so that you have, other avenues of generating income and getting kind of people into Sarah Robbins' world. So let's talk about that just a little bit about monetizing your brand, can we?
Let's do it. I'm
Let's do it.
excited. Yeah, I just think there's so much wisdom in that. And, I don't believe in doing anything out of fear. So
Sure.
everything I do is fear based because we know fear is a spirit. God has not given us spirit of fear, power, love, and a sound mind. So
Yes.
everything that I do is based on wisdom. And wisdom would say it's
Mhm.
very smart. It's very smart to be diversified because
Yep.
at the end of the day, these are companies, right? They are
Mhm.
businesses.
Yes.
And also, too, it's like if you work so hard to grow an audience, like for me with my personal brand, it also feeds leads into my
Yes.
business. So it's just
100%.
smart
Yeah.
all around.
Mhm.
Um, Also, too, like making sure that you are building your own personal list, right? Like email
Yes.
list, text
Mhm.
list. You came into my groups and you taught that because
Yeah.
really it's like what happens if social media just goes away?
On. Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg gets up one day. He's tired of it.
Yeah,
He pulls the plug.
somebody's account, right,
Yeah.
just goes away. I know our friend Shalene Johnson talked about that. Literally,
Yes.
it's like people are holding accounts hostage. Like
Yes.
we just don't know. So I think it is so important that it's like we're thinking about what is the freebie we're offering? How do we not only build followers, but use that to build our list as well? Because then eventually we can decide, right? It was like the day
Yes.
that you decided to flip the switch and monetize, the day that I decided to
Yeah.
flip the switch and monetize. Now, I always tell network marketers, I'm like, we don't diversify by building multiple MLMs. Like that just
Right.
doesn't make sense. It's confusing. I always say, pick one, stick with one, build to the top of the plan. The
Yeah.
way that we diversify is through building our personal brand. And there's always so many more
Yep.
opportunities that open up from that. And
Yeah.
again, I just think that that's wisdom.
It is. And so, you're building that whole know, like, and trust factor with your audience. You're not just promoting products, you're talking about all the things so they feel like they know Sarah, they trust Sarah. So Sarah could put essentially anything in front of her audience and there would be people that buy. I know that in the last couple of years, you love Jesus just like I do. And I love that about you. I love that you're a woman of prayer, but the Holy Spirit has talked to me so often about the topic of stewardship
Yes.
and stewardship of my business. So like whatever God has entrusted to you on this side of heavens. So even like our children, our families, the dollars we have in the bank, like how are you stewarding those? And I think that it's in terms of stewardship of our businesses that you almost have to like have some other avenues and diversification. I just think it's good stewardship. Does that make sense?
It's good stewardship.
Yes.
Great. And again, it goes back to it's like, what is your superpower? What is that one skill set? What is the one thing that everybody comes to you for, asks for
Yeah.
advice on, right? And I know you shared your story, I shared mine. It was like how everybody was like, hey, I want to know what you know in terms of
Yeah.
network marketing. What is that thing for each person who's listening?
Yes. Yeah.
How can we serve people with that specialized knowledge, right? And then as we continue to serve, so again, whether it's going live, doing a podcast, whatever the case may be, giving some free tips on social media, which hopefully will lead people to some sort of an opt-in,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Eventually we can develop that product and then profit.
It's so good. So, so good. I actually had a bajillion other questions. I just want to ask you one other one though, before we get to the fun part at the end here that I didn't tell you we're going to do. But I know that you are just a huge believer in sowing and the biblical principle of reaping and sowing and, which the world doesn't even realize, like outside of the church, that they actually believe that too. They say things like karma, but it's actually, it's the biblical principle of reaping and sowing. So tell me about sowing your time, sowing your
Yep.
talent, sowing your time, because I know you are huge believers in this.
Yeah, well, and that is like I always say, like it's spiritual law. So, we can see wicked people who are blessed, but they're incredibly generous. And so we have always been so generous. We actually spoke at our church as a college, it's Oceans Church. And we were talking about this yesterday. Phil and I were invited to speak at the
That's
college and
awesome.
talking about sowing of our time and our talent And I shared how we really built our personal brand. And it was by what I was giving, the wisdom that I was giving the industry on a weekly basis, and how God
Yeah.
literally took that and he multiplied that.
Yeah.
And then Phil came up and was talking about our tithe. And, I love the verse that talks about God loves a cheerful giver. It really is a heart matter. We don't give out of compulsion. We also don't give to get. But Phil and I are actually so, like, we are overjoyed at giving. Like, that actually makes us so excited because every month we set giving goals and growth goals. So when we do our tithe together, we actually write out in the categories of faith, family, finances, field, which is like, our business, ministry, etc. All of the things that we're praying for and all of the things that we're standing on, all of the things that we're asking God for. And as we tithe, we're just standing on that seed and we're saying, Lord, will you bless us? We're praying for healing in this area, whatever the case may be. And it's so cool because when we meet every month, we can say, look at how God answered that prayer. And maybe sometimes it's, a year or 2 years later, look at what God did. It's so awesome. And I remember when I started my business, one of my mentors said to me, what is your goal? And I was like, my big goal, my big why, as we would call it, I want to start a foundation for women and children. And she was like, how does that feel? I'm like, I'm so overwhelmed. And she's like, that's why you keep quitting. So she gave me the best advice. She said, start an account, take a percentage of every check, and do something nice for a woman or a family in need. And it was so cool. As our income grew, so did our impact. In the beginning, it was, let's pay for somebody's grocery bills. Let's build a handicap ramp. Like there's things that we could do over time.
Yeah.
Now, instead of being driven by discouragement and doubt and defeat, I was really driven by that dream. And we were able to just do so many things. We put a picture on the screen. This is such a cool story and just a testament to the Lord. We put a picture of a screen on our first house. And that first house probably would fit in my garage today. I mean, it was just quaint and small. And again, it was when I was teaching in Michigan. And it was so interesting. Like, I think God just really looks at our obedience in every season. So back in that recession, in those upside down mortgages, the ones that they did away with, but ours could not be forgiven because it was an overseas company, but like operating out of Iowa. And I just remember just being in this crazy place and we're like, what do we do? And the world was like telling us, you foreclose on the house. Like that's what you do. You walk away, you're in a, really tough situation. Like you just walk away. And we just really felt that the Lord was telling us, like, be obedient, pay the payments, do the thing. I look now today and I'm like, there's no way that we could have qualified for our next home, our dream home, had we had done that, but there's more to the story. So we were going to move actually when my business took off from that house to our dream house. It was on a lake in Michigan. And we didn't know what we were going to do with this house. So again, this was the house everybody told us to foreclose on. Pay off the house. This couple's driving by. We still didn't know what we were going to do with the house. They see us moving. They go, hey, are you guys moving? We'd really love to rent this house. And we're like, well, there's the answer. Sounds great. And it's so cool. So we rent them the house. And we were telling the story yesterday about how Phil would be like, I think we need to lower the rent. So her husband had Parkinson's and they were just working really hard to make ends meet. We'd call and be like, hey, we're lowering the rent. She's like, that's the exact amount that we needed for his prescriptions. Like God was so cool. There was one day where Phil and I were both separate. I was taking a walk. He was doing his thing. And the Lord spoke to both of our hearts. And Phil calls me up and says, I have something to talk to you about. I said,
you're gonna make me cry. You're already
going to make me cry. I have something to talk to you about too. And it's so cool. So we come together and Phil says, you go first. I'm like, no, you go first. And he goes, we have to gift them the house. And I was like, that's exactly what I want to do too. So I'll just bring this all in. We call our accountant and he's like, hey, just so you know, this is going to create a taxable event for them, which could put somebody in a bad spot. Kind of like, Jen, when people win a car on The Price is Right, like they don't help.
Well, I used to do the Extreme Home Makeover show with ABC and so 3 different houses I worked on, but they were gifting houses and that caused a huge tax liability.
Yes. And so he helped us to figure out a way that we could basically write it off over time. We would charge them $1 for the house. And we called her on Christmas and we said, hey, we need to talk to you. She's like, it was a couple days before Christmas. She's like, I'm at an office party. And we're like, we need you to step out. And she was really nervous. She's probably
Yeah.
thinking, am I getting evicted before
Right.
Christmas? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
You know? And we both said, we just want you to know that the Lord told us, because it's not, this is everything we have is
Mhm.
comes from him, belongs to him,
Yep.
eventually is returned to him. Like we
Yeah.
hold on to things so tightly when it all belongs to the Lord.
Right.
Said, the house is yours. And she wept and she said, every time I walk in that home, the Lord would say to me, this house is yours, but I never knew how it was possible. So she tells this guy, I guess he's like a Jewish billionaire. And
Uh,
he was like at the party, who does
yeah.
this? Can't be real. I think these people are lying because nobody just gives people
Yeah.
houses. But it is so cool. In every area that we've sown, though, Jen, I will just say, like, we have seen breakthroughs in
Yes.
areas of real estate, breakthroughs
Yeah.
for our family, and
I love
all
it.
things that it's like in every area that we have sown. And again, we don't give to get, but we have
Mhm.
seen such a
Yes.
heart. And whether it's in health, whether it's in, just answer to prayers, different breakthroughs for our business, etc. Every single time that we have sown, whether it is our time, whether it is of our talent,
Mhm.
whether it is of our tithe, God has been so faithful.
Faithful.
And
Yeah.
I will just end in saying this, I think like living in Southern California, it's like the land of opportunity. I'm around people who are a trillion times more successful than us every single day. And a lot of times you'll see people like kind of like positioning themselves for relationship. And
Mhm.
I have just said, Phil and I, so often we have such a pure heart where, it's so great at the end of the night that I can put my head on a pillow and there's not one thing of anyone in my world that I want one thing from. But
Yeah.
instead, I'm always thinking about like, how can I make their life better? How can I connect them to the right people? And just really focusing on people over profit,
Mhm.
relationship over revenue,
Yes.
and how God has just,
Yeah.
one of the areas that
Honor
He's
that.
blessed us is these amazing friendships of people, just like you. So you've been
Yeah.
such a blessing to me and your friendship, and just so appreciate,
Yeah.
being able to have this conversation with
This
you.
is all so good. And as like your friend, I can bear witness to all of that. You are absolutely generous people with all of those things. And so thank you for being you. Yeah.
So are you and Jason. We love you.
Well, bless you, honey. I'm going to do some rapid fire with you. Is that
Okay,
okay?
let's do it.
Just
I'm
a
ready.
couple of questions. It's going to be fun. Okay. Tell me one thing you could spend hours doing.
Oh my gosh, one thing that I could spend hours doing. Oh, I could spend hours. I mean, this is crazy, but just writing. I absolutely love writing, and I love kind of
Yes.
like the teaching training piece. But that's something that I could spend hours doing.
Well, that's great since you wrote one book and are going to be hopefully writing another.
Yeah,
So what's
yeah.
the weirdest thing you own?
My gosh, the weirdest thing I own.
I know
I
that's
don't
kind of a hard
know. If it's
one.
weird, am I gonna really think it's weird? Okay, I'm gonna show you the weirdest thing I own. Are you
Okay,
ready?
show me the weirdest.
Hold on. They gotta
This
watch
is
this on YouTube. They gotta watch
this
this on
is hilarious. Okay, we're getting a
oh,
visual on YouTube. Oh my gosh.
the weirdest thing.
It's
I
her
know.
puppy with a cone
It's
head.
my puppy with the cone on its head. Let me just say, we got, and of course it's weird because it has a cone, not weird because
Yes.
it's the dog, but we did get the dog for the kids. And there
Yes.
are times where I'm like, oh, enter in a brand new newborn. Like,
It is. It is the wildest thing.
why did
Yes.
we do this? I mean,
I know.
8-year-old Jack Russell, and now it's like you start over. And
I know. You really do. What was your last big splurge?
the last big splurge. Ooh. We're going to travel. So travel, we're gonna go to St. Bart's as part, we're gonna tack it on to part of our company trip, but also celebrate our anniversary. So
Love
travel.
that.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. What book's currently on your nightstand?
Well, I have a few here. Well, right now I've had obviously my Bible, and this one's my
Bible.
favorite. It's Fidel, the New Living Translation, and I just got my newest one that just showed up. I'm going to tell you what 10x is greater than 2x. Is that what I
Yes,
just?
yes, I've read or listened to that on Audible. 10x
Yes.
is better than 2x.
So that actually just came today. So I'm
It's
actually really excited for it.
fascinating book and how it's actually easier to 10 times your business than 2 times your business. And
Yeah.
so hard to wrap my head around. But okay, last thing. What's one thing you are surprisingly good at?
Surprisingly good at. I sing opera. That's my hidden talent. But I
What?
don't do it for people because here's the thing: it's like awkward. It's not like somebody with like the pretty, like airy voice like you hear on the worship team. Like very startling. So I used to sing competitively Italian arias. I said, you should go professional doing this. I was like, who makes any money doing that? So I decided to become a teacher.
Okay,
Right?
I want to ask you to perform on demand, but give me just like, can you give me one note? One
No,
note.
no,
Oh, you can't do
no.
that. Like, oh,
And like I said, it's so awkward. Phil's always like the first person who can get her to do this, like they win. Some
that
sort of
is hilarious. So, my hidden talent is I control batons, not one baton, but two
stop.
batons. I can twirl fire. So I did that like all through high school. I used to teach baton twirling lessons to like
No.
elementary girls when I was in high school. So I would like burn all the hair off my arms at football games with fire batons and stuff. So anyway, but now I always joke like you have to get at least one margarita in me or I will never twirl a baton. It's a
Okay,
joke.
I
It's a
was
joke.
gonna say that too. Okay, so listen, let's have some margaritas. Let's go
There
on
you
the
go.
road. You do baton. I will sing for you, and we'll have our own
Perfect.
parade. And our husbands will run
Perfect.
fast the other way. Jason and Phil,
Oh
bye.
my gosh, hilarious. Sarah, you're the very, very best. I know there's going to be people that want to contact you. They're going to want to reach out to you in DMs. Tell them where you would most like for them to do that at. Do you want them to go to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, where
Yeah,
at?
Instagram's great.
Okay,
Sarah Robbins, the number one, and Sarah has an H. Robbins, two B's. The right way to do it.
perfect. Love you so much, friend.
Love you. Thank you for having me.